While the long stitch can be used several ways, in this video we will explore the long stitch as a handy and automatic border. We will cover how to cast on for long stitch, transition from long stitch to stockinette stitch, place long stitches along the selvage edges, decrease and increase on long stitch selvage edges, and transition back from stockinette to long stitch. Make sure to stay tuned to the end when I share a secret little trick. For this demonstration, I'm using a Brothers Bulky with Ribber and worsted weight yarn. While this yarn is much too thick for an overall long stitch pattern, you can use it to knit long stitch borders with just a little encouragement.
So we're going to set up to cast on, and we're setting the tension on the main bed to 0, the tension on the river bed to star, and it's going to knit in both directions. We have our knit on here, we have it on knit here, and both our levers are in knit position on the river. Once we have that done, we can do our needle setup. I'm going to bring out 17 stitches on the left and 16 stitches on the right. The racking handle indicator over here is on H3, which means that the needles won't collide with each other when we set it up. Here's my end needle on the main bed, and here's my end needle on the river. And I'm going to bring up 1 for 1 along here, except I'm going to be short 1 needle on the river because I want the 2 end needles on the main bed. Just for fun, we're going to run our carriage across a couple times, just so that we set our needles in the right place. Then I'm setting my row counter to 0, and I'm threading up with my main color, because we're going to go right to main color right away. I'm going to leave myself a little yarn tail just for finishing up at the end, and I'm going to knit across 1 row. Now, do you see how the stitches are zigzagging between the needles? I'm going to take my cast-on comb for the river and insert it up so that it's pretty centered, so that it comes up between the zigzag on the main bed. Now I'm threading my wire back in. You want to make sure when you put the wire in that that little end is facing all the way in and facing forward, and there we go. Now I'm going to hang some weight on it. We come back to our carriage, and I'm going to up my tension to 1 on the main bed and 1 on the river. But I'm going to put my partial button on this side, so when I go this way, the river will not knit. I'm also going to put my partial button
On the left.
so that when I knit back, when I go that way, the main bed won't knit. So now I'm going to take another pass. I'm only going to knit the main bed. See how it knit the main bed? Now I'm going to return 1 more. And I'm going to knit only the river. I'm going to set my carriage to 2 on both the back bed and the front bed. And I'm going to knit back. And I'm going to release this. I'm also going to release the part button here, and it's going to knit both beds. Now that was pretty heavy, but that's okay. We're working on it.
So that concludes my cast on edge.
So 9.1 on the main bed, 8.1 on the river. I'm also going to set my river. The main bed is set to knit in both directions, and I'm going to reset this one so it only knits when it's going that direction. And I think it's a good idea to hang my 7s at this point. And a 7 is this little wire thing. And I'm going to drop it down right in there and put the weight in that little loop. So this other 7 faces the other direction, so it captures those edge stitches, and I'm going to put the weight on the little loop from below. Okay, so we're ready to knit. Now, it's quite heavy that way, and it's quite light going this way. Quite heavy going this way, and quite light going that way, because we're using some really heavy yarn. We just have 10 rows now, which includes 4 rows of the selvage edge. So now we're going to take our double-eyed bodkin and leave the 3 edge stitches on each end on the ribber, because we're going to continue to do the long stitch on the selvage edges throughout this little swatch. So we're going to move the 4th one over to the 4th needle here. Now, so I'm going to be transferring all the needles in between to the main bed. So now I'm down to my last 3 needles on the ribber, and I'm going to leave them there. Now notice I didn't transfer one to this stitch here, and that's because there's one less stitch on the ribber than on the main bed.
Increase the tension to 10.1 on the main bed just for the next row. This helps the doubled stitches to lay flat. Reset the tension on the main bed to 9.1. It knit the ribber stitches in between the stitches on the main bed.
And it knit purl stitches all the way in the middle. So now we're going to go back. And the entire main bed knit stitches. So now we're going to go back again. And we're going to do the edge stitches. So it's only knitting the ribber every other row. Okay, so we have a little bit of a sample at this point. I want to maintain the 3 stitches on the main bed on each end as the primary stitches. So I am going to take a 3-1 eyelet tool. On the right side, you're going to take the 4th stitch and move it over 1 needle to the right. Then you're going to take the 3 stitches, and which one is the double, and move them all at the same time 1 needle to the left. Make sure this needle is out of work. Then move the ones on the ribber, making sure the needle that is retired, this one right here, is out of work. On the left side, you're going to take the 4th needle, or the stitch on the 4th needle, and move it 1 stitch to the outside. Then take these 3 stitches, all at the same time, and transfer them 1 needle to the right. See how the 2 stitches are on this needle? Then go to the ribber and transfer 1 needle to the right. Make sure the 2 needles that were emptied, these here, are out of work. So then we can continue to knit. We showed you the decreases. Now, what if you had to increase? Transfer the stitch, these 3 stitches out 1 stitch. Pick up that purl bump. Now, since I'm working from the inside, I'm doing the purl bump from the inside, and fill that stitch. Then go to the ribber and move those edge stitches out. On the right side, transfer these out. And then pick up the inside purl bump from the adjacent stitch on the main bed and fill that stitch. Then move these out. But the difference is I have my carriage on the left. And what that means is when I go to the right, because I have my partial knitting button lever engaged on my ribber, it is not going to knit the rib stitches this time. It's only going to knit the main bed stitches. And it makes it a lot easier to go over those transitions. Now we're ready to transition back into long stitch. So, the easiest way to do this, and I've tried a bunch of different options, such as picking up the purl bump, picking up the loop across, the bars across, and you always get this ridge-like structure on the knit side. So the easiest way to do this is to move these needles that are out of work back into work. That will cause a real loose row. So what we're going to do on our ribber is turn this down one full number, maybe a little bit more. But I'm going to just go one full number because it worked out very nicely with this particular yarn. Now this is going to be a very heavy row to knit because we're in full needle rib with worsted weight yarn on a bulky, and it will be heavy. So this row will go slowly, so expect that, okay? Our tension on our main bed, on our main carriage, is still at 9.1. We only changed the tension on the ribber. And we're going to knit across. See what I mean by being heavy? And now we're going to knit back, and only the main bed will knit. Now we're going to bring our tension back. Now, when I knit this last row, the tension didn't get any, nothing was knitting on this edge anyway, so you could have changed it right afterwards or 2 rows afterwards, and I just changed it at the 2 row mark. Let's bind off. So we've taken our sample off of the machine, and this is the cast on side. As you can see, there is our long stitch cast on. It's a circular cast on. Then we did some decreases here. We progressed to do some increases here, and finally we transition back into the long stitch up in this area. Let's look at the back. So here's our long stitch on across the entire swatch. Then we transitioned so that it went into stockinette stitch, and see how nice that looks. Then we went and just built our no roll edge up on the sides. Then we did our decreases. See how neat that is on both sides? Our increases. And then we transitioned back into the long stitch. But there's one more thing that I wanted to show you. And here I had to change yarn. One of the nice things about the long stitch is that you can weave in your ends very neatly by going in between the layers of knitting. Right like so. And so on both sides it'll look very, very neat.
I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please take a moment to subscribe and ring the bell to receive notifications of upcoming videos and events. Happy machine knitting!